to get there. oNe, Gio, it's all yours.
Thank you very much indeed, Tim. Here we are for our third game of the night.
Are you ready?
Third games come around fairly quickly, Gio, to be honest with you. But I am conscious that we've got 5, and this, as we've built, is going to be the banger. At least it's the one that's got the most at stake. I think the jury's out on whether it's going to be a close game or not. It really depends on which NIP shows up here.
I just mean, are you emotionally prepared for this game here on Consulate?
Yeah, definitely. I think that...
Not.
See, I don't know. Tim was very confident in sort of saying NIP are capable of doing this, of leaving it till the last minute and then, you know, locking it down and qualifying on like the last play day sort of thing. And it's something that they've done a couple of times over previous LATAM stages. But for me, I just don't see a world where NIP are able to make such a drastic change in such a short period of time.
One thing I do want to add in is that even though I kind of rag on NIP a little bit for the way that they've played Consulate, they do have a 50% win rate on it after 2 plays of it. And so the game that they actually won was against FaZe Clan. So a pretty difficult opponent. It was in overtime. In fact, I think it was in max OT, if I remember correctly. And even though, you know, on paper that sounds like, oh man, this is... You know, they won against FaZe. That's insane. That's really good. A lot of the way that NIP were playing wasn't really that great. And many of the times where they could take advantage of FaZe were because FaZe were trying some really crazy stuff. And you can't always put it down to that. And it's certainly not to take away from the fact that NIP individually are really good players and they had some really great rounds. But I don't think it's consistent enough. And I think there have been some pervading problems that have continued through many of NIP's plays on Consulate and strats on Consulate that could rear their ugly head here today. And this is not the game where they want that to be happening.
Now, this is a game that needs to be played very cleanly indeed, as it's hard enough going up against an opponent such as Team One that are, you know, kind of coming onto form at the moment, but when there's just so much at stake, you can't risk things like momentum getting in the way. NIP starting off the night here on the attack. Already I'm hearing an exothermic charge go off onto the garage. The site being press and lobby, so we can calm ourselves for a time. We're not going to see a quick plan. Sorry, the site being split bomb site. As we get a better view of that there, we can see it's going to be tellers and archives. So a long way to go really for NIP here, choosing to make some sort of an entry in through the garage. It kind of bucks the trend as to what we've usually seen when teams attack onto this site, because usually there's a lot of pressure played inside of admin, and you can see that Team 1 were maybe anticipating that with KDS and Alamau playing up in there with Levy underneath inside of Visas. But NIP have sort of said, oh, we're going to go from the other side. We're going to go from garage.
I was thinking the same thing, and you can tell that the way that Team 1 have set up their defense, that they were expecting that more traditional push in through the admin and Visa side. They've gone for quite a substantial roam, and you can tell that just by the operator lineup that they've lent into, with the Vigil, with the Mozzie, and the Malusi as well. One thing that they are lacking on the defense is a pulse. That's something that a lot of times we will see brought on this kind of a defense, to play downstairs and provide the information to the rest of the defenders. But instead, they've lent into playing upstairs and looking down. That's going to be interesting to see how they utilize that as they start to move back from the roam, as roams don't typically stay out forever.
You see Pino at the bottom of that blue spiral. He's going to be able to just dip down and get rid of one of the cameras there, but choose not to go any further for the time being. Psycho gets chunked down as he's actually inside a blue corridor. He will be taken out as a trade, but not before he found some success for himself in Lagonis, being removed as the Echo. A lot of ability to deny that plant, as NIP are getting even more aggressive onto this, and where typically we see teams just try and get a plant inside of tellers upstairs, NIP are going for a very clear roam, very succinct clear of the actual site here, but is it going to work for them? Kills are continuing to trade. Neskin left now as the last player alive, and it looks as though, ooh, it did have some intel there on Julio. I saw the Z ping come through and I said, it looks as though he's got some intel. Well, he swung and picked up the headshot. What he doesn't have intel on, however, is Muzi, who is going to be getting the plant down on the little stage inside of sight. Pre-fires and gives the game away, and looking now to try and win out this engagement. It is a 1 versus 1. Muzi, one of the highest rated players on the side of NIP. He's given a chance. Can he take it? Oh, it was so close. Neskin, how was that not a headshot? Those bars, man. He goes for the reload. Muzi picks up that final kill, the plant and the clutch for NIP to take round 1.
Oh my god. I mean, when it was just 1 player left remaining on Team 1, what that meant is that where the diffuser had been dropped cold down in the rotate hole, the impact hole on the bottom floor site, that could be picked up because he was playing upstairs. Neskin was playing upstairs. He was at the top of Spiral. So he wasn't watching onto that while that could be taken. It gave Muzi all the space he needed to get the plant down. And as you said, Neskin was working with information. So he got that really clean kill onto Julio, which was great. But after that, he was definitely limited in what intel he had. And it was the moment that he started reloading that I freaked out a little bit, because you just know Muzi's pushing up onto him and he didn't know what angle from which he was coming. A really great round from NIP. And I like the ingenuity that they used to come in through a garage take and essentially kind of nullify a lot of the presence that Team 1 had up in admin and in Visa and the way that they'd set their roam up. At that point, you know, what does that roam even mean if your attack is coming from a completely different side of the map?
NIP really changed it up there, and they've kind of been questioned a little bit by us, at least, as to are they adapting enough, or are they becoming a bit too predictable? Because some of their losses have come down to them just repeating the same strategies and then being, you know, fairly easily countered by their opponents. And here already in round number 1, we've just seen an entirely different approach. Now, it's not a brand new approach, it's an approach we've seen before, but considering the context and what we're used to seeing inside of LATAM, it is very different. Now, this time there's a little bit less room for that sort of ingenuity. You're going to be limited with trying to get the garage wall open as best you can, and it seems as though that task is just causing Kamikaze a few headaches here, as Pino did try and breach or ash round through the drone hole, and it did work, but I believe that the mute jammer has now been replaced. It's just going to force a bit more of a fuller clear here from NIP. They're going to now need to get more control of this mid floor.
That's the really important part. You can see the upside down rappel onto Antichamber is going to apply pressure onto that player. I believe it was Neskin who was present in the public bathroom on that first floor. It's that really key location that has to be cleared out and opened up if you want to take Piano and Antichamber and get the floor open. If they can't clear out the mute jammers with the ash charges, that's really the only option they have, because Thatcher has, of course, been taken off in the form of a ban. Now, I'm interested in this C4 that's being prepared by Levy, because you can tell that he's working on information from the rest of his team. People don't typically just get C4s prepared to throw into the corner of a ceiling. Neskin's in the same position. He's just waiting for any kind of sound cue or info to come in to suggest that there's a player from NIP over in Piano.
NIP once again flipping the script and choosing now to push this back site quite heavily. Holding quite nice crossfires here onto players that were rotating in and around of that top of blue stairs, bottom of main stairs area. ADS is going to be inside of Archives. He's on the Jackal track. Likely going to get dropped and challenged as Neskin's forced out of the bathroom upstairs as the garage wall has been opened. Toxic Babe Canister is going to do something to deny the push for a time as Levy draws for a C4 and makes it land. Taking out Muzi, the star of the show from the previous round. Psycho getting chunked down as there's a duel going on here inside of blue. And well, KDS, he's going to come out the winner on that one. Jackal track or not, it will not matter. Kamikaze left with no option but to push deep. He gets taken down, rendering the diffuser cold on the ground. Alamau with the final kill. Team One, a much better defense there of Garage.
I actually really like what that represents for the way that Team One played and what it means for NIP's approach as well. That's the second time in the row where NIP have made a concerted effort to avoid a part of the map where a really valuable part of the defense is. Back in round number 1, that was avoiding the roam that would be up in admin and visa. In this round, it was avoiding piano and antechamber in a way that meant that all of that defensive utility and manpower that had been invested into the public bathroom was completely just not needed. And it was going to sit there, and it meant that NIP could go and take another part of the map and essentially waste the resources of Team One without having to touch them themselves. However, Team One read into that and they prepared for the backside push. KDS, who's been showing up pretty well and was playing on the Jaeger, he moved down into that archives area, and the 2 kills that he got onto NIP in that position really shut down NIP's attempt and their approach. At that point, NIP were kind of waiting for options. Their backside push didn't work. You've lost 2 key members of your team who could have been used elsewhere, and you haven't opened up piano / antechamber or cleared out the bathroom to even use that as an option. We know that you can't open the garage wall from outside because it was the first thing you tried and then gave up on. So at that point, NIP's approach was just completely done for. It was a really nice example of just the general ideas that are being used by both of these teams and how in the space of 1 round, they started to read into each other even more.
It could be a game that comes down to on-the-fly adaptation or who has the most ideas moving into this game. If it does, we have seen NIP struggle to change things on the fly. And they make a bit of a difference here. This match means a lot to them. Chance the Cobra Elite 6. Of course, they don't want to be relying on other results to try and make that happen. Ooh, Pino! He's letting us know what he's known for, and he's known for that aggressive entry. Takes down Neskin in a whirl. Swings round the corner like an absolute Tasmanian devil there. Taking down Neskin, finding that opener. And really throwing a bit of a cat among the pigeons on the side of Team One.
Big loss as well because of how well Neskin has been showing up for Team One in recent history. Very reliable and skilled player. But KDS and Alamau are still present up here on the top floor. Remember, the bomb site is downstairs, so NIP will have to focus up here despite the fact that they'll later have to move down. KDS getting ready with the C4, but it's not quite going to reach. In fact, it gets stuck on the window frame and immediately shot off by Pino. So that wasn't really how they wanted it to go, but Alamau moves straight in onto Kamikaze. Diffuser called in admin, hello, and now Team One have control.
Control and advantage as KDS doubles down, taking down Muzi. Psycho left to try and recover this diffuser, but Alamau's holding the tight angle. Has the C4 still in hand. Is going to send it flying. Psycho takes some chunk damage, goes for another stun, and oh no, you can't do that against Alamau. He is a roaming mute supreme, and it's all now down to Pino. He repels himself into admin where that diffuser is, but between KDS and Alamau, that round was going nowhere. They held on tight inside of admin and were able to clutch it out there for Team One.
Yeah, that was really the KDS and Alamau show. Would you agree? It seemed that it was really them doing everything, and those were the 2 players who I said after Neskin went down were the two who were remaining upstairs. It was actually a testament to how valuable a strong upstairs roam could be, and it feels almost funny to say that because Alamau wasn't even playing a traditional roamer. He was playing on smoke, which meant that the risk that he was running to actually be positioned where he was quite substantial. If you lose your smoke early on in the round, then that's massive denial that's been taken off the board for later and makes it easier for the attackers to plant. But the fact that Alamal actually stuck to his guns, he held strong in meeting, moved forward into admin when he knew there was space to do so, and that Kamikaze was on his own, took the swing with the shotgun, and suddenly the defenders have control of the diffuser. Now, you could argue that, of course, the attackers could choose to ignore that and go in for kills, but it's not a particularly wise decision to make, and it's a very risky one too. So at that point, it means that NIP have to entirely change their objective to focus on reclaiming that diffuser. And it was then that KDS and Alamau could just work as that duo and kill everyone who tried to come in. I mean, we even saw at the end when Pino tried to swing into admin, he was shot at through the soft wall when he made the swing, and he had to vault over the desk once he'd reloaded. That makes him very, very conspicuous to those defenders. All in all, a very difficult position for NIP.
Ooh, pre-fire shots there coming in onto Muzi. He's trying to challenge onto that upside down rappel, but Levy there from inside of Visas is able to get a beautiful angle. He's actually going to punch the floor open as well. Maybe one of his teammates can get an angle through 2 floors there onto those admin rappels. An early frag onto Pino. He's going to do a lot to slow NIP down. He's one of the star performers on the side of NIP in terms of kills and opening kills. This time finding himself as the opening death. This split site was previously attacked by NIP from Garage and it worked well for them, but at a risk of becoming predictable, they have now gone and changed things up and they are instead going for the more orthodox take of admin control. But it isn't really working out too well. They've kind of been faltered in their tracks. As losing the sledge, they lose so much of that soft destruction, where Consulate is a very soft destructible map. There's bullet holes in that long desk. Oh, KDS gets punished. Psycho with the reaction time there. KDS, he had every opportunity to pick up that frag.
Great shot there from Psycho. There's really no other way of putting it, to be perfectly honest. And now he has control of the spiral stairs, which means that not only can he look down into circle, where there may be some defenders playing, but he can hold off the rotation that they can make at the bottom of the stairs. Kamikaze too, as he's out here in the Teller's corridor, he knows, or at least suspects, that there is a player on the spiral. That's Levy as the oNe. They're just trying to bait out some of that defensive prowess from Team 1, but Kamikaze is not quite going for the plant yet. Lagonis is the only one down below. You can see him moving around, but it looks like Kamikaze is actually committing to the plant here, while really no one from Team 1 moves in on him.
How has he been able to stick it there? Immediately he's going to get taken out as Levy has retaken, but he hasn't got the security to try and disable that diffuser yet, as he's still getting challenged onto vertically. Psycho coming back to hurt him there as Lagonis left to try and push on up. 2 versus 1 now. He knows exactly where the bomb is. And after getting himself hopped up, immediately going to go and try and hit that disable as he believes he has the time and space. But he didn't know that Psycho was going to come knocking, hitting him with the headshot there from the hatch. Maybe even dropping down to get it. Nice little swaggy kill to finish things off. How did that plank go down when there was so many defenders alive and the Echo? You can only hope that the yokai drones weren't in play.
Yeah, I would assume that the yokai drones either weren't there or they'd been taken out. I hope the latter. And you could actually see that Lagonis down below, you know, he was moving around every time Kamikaze would change his position. And my hope was, in my head, I was thinking, I really hope he has the supernova so that he's going to shoot through the floor, but at no point I saw that. So I assume he actually didn't have the supernova, but that would have been quite funny in my opinion. But yeah, no, there was no push forward from Team 1. And one of the things as well is because of where the diffuser was planted, you're in that perfect line of sight through from Visa. Now, what we oftentimes see is defenders put castle barricades on those 2 windows that look into tellers. But this time, there wasn't that, which meant when Team 1 went in for the disable, NIP only had to have position in Visa to actually get the direct line of sight onto him when he was doing that. So, you know, it's one of those things that can work one way, but when you're in a post plant can suddenly work against you. This was one of those examples, I think.
Well, here we are, round number 5, and this one is living up to expectations so far. Not a lot between these 2 teams, as everything's square at 2 rounds apiece. Really yet to see any significant difference. We didn't see NIP successful down here last time. They struggled quite greatly to get the garage door open early, and instead decided to drop and play through Archives, but it didn't really work for them. KDS went massive inside of Archives and did quite a number on slowing down that attacking push. This time, however, the garage wall has been opened very quickly inside of the first 30 seconds, and it's going to be a lot better this time for NIP because they're not going to be able to, they're not going to have to worry about these defenders being able to make such free rotates. Garage is now going to be a dangerous zone, as you can almost always expect somebody to be playing outside of there. Levy with a pre-play C4 is going to find a down over onto Pino. How has he managed to manufacture that? That's some serious big brain play there, as he must have known that's where Pino was going to go through. What he doesn't know, however, is that Pino is down. Or he does, and he's instead trying to bait him out, as Muzi is in fact inside of desk. Levy might know this and grabs the kill on Muzi as well. Oh, I love the bait there, Gio.
Oh, it's just so good. He just lapped him straight up. And the real heartbreaking thing for NIP as well is you can tell the adaptations they've made to try and make this round work. Julio on the Kali would mean that they would be able to open up the garage door much easier, which is what they struggled with last time they attacked onto this site. And yet everything seems to be falling apart around them. Julio, Psycho, both going down, and it's all on Kamikaze. He's being affected by the Malusi Banshee, and now the Toxic Babe canister. One more kill from KDS, and that goes to a flawless round for Team 1.
That bait. Honestly, that bait. I hope that's in the replay. I've been told that we've got a replay of that round. I hope that that bait is in it, because that just shows that Siege is so much more than just a game of who's better in a gunfight. And that's the thing that I really, or one of the things that really got me hooked on this game early, is that you can play smart and you're going to win. And that's exactly how we saw Levy play in that situation. Just waiting there, knowing that someone was going to come on in, finishing off the kill. It's a quick double. Not only that, it's a Zofia and a Sledge. It's so much utility removed from these attackers. Just everything gone. Piano is just safe now. You can sit inside a site and you know you're not going to get challenged vertically.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow. Yeah, not great there for NIP, especially when they tried to make changes that were going to be really beneficial for them. But, you know, stuff happens. It's a shame. Team 1 coming up to CEO. And this is the first time, actually, that they've defended this site on this half. Really intrigued to see how this one is going to go. And I think if they win it, it's going to put them in a great position, because a 4-2 split on Consulate is actually pretty good if you're playing on the defensive side. Julio is actually bringing an operator who he's teased a couple of times but 6th picked off of, and that is Gridlock. We don't really see her be used a ton, but when you consider the fact that Nomad got banned out by Team 1 and you want to bring some kind of flank watch or flank control, Gridlock is arguably the next best thing. Those track stingers can be just strewn all over the staircases and make it incredibly hard for the defenders to move freely up and down them. I mean, I remember when she first came out, really it was Cafe Dostoevsky that you would typically see her get used on. But if you're banning out operators like Nomad, you've got to use what you got.
I love a good Gridlock pick. I think it's very valuable. You get the smokes as well. I'm quite interested in the site setup from Team 1 here. They've done some unusual things there in their rotations, in the way that they've left walls soft and intentionally placed lines of sight through them. I think this is going to be quite difficult to approach for NIP. Now, yellow stairs is often an area that we speak quite heavily of. Now, it has been sort of your utility has been placed on it, but it's not necessarily been in the most usual way. But we saw yesterday NIP really struggling with taking control of yellow stairs. Pino finds an opener over onto Levy, so almost the man of the moment from the last round gets taken out pretty early on here. And on the Maestro, that is not ideal. It's a gun that you're going to be relying on to hold a lot of those longer lines of sight that you have opened up. But still, NIP no closer to getting anywhere near the site. In fact, still 2 players below for Team 1 and potential for a bit of a jump out here.
I think it'd be quite risky to have a jump out, given that there are 4 players of NIP who are all on this front outside wall of the building. Presumably at least one is going to catch them out. Punching onto the window immediately gives away your location. It's a nice trade, though, onto Pino from KDS, but returned by Julio. I think that was quite a risk, just baiting out that with the prone. And now it's the constant backwards and forwards. Psycho to clean up at the end of the round, gives it to NIP. And I think despite some of the interesting setup strategies coming out there from Team 1, it wasn't really enough to properly defend the site.
Curiosity really killed the cat there, didn't it? It was, you know, it's a Glaz, don't peek him, everybody peeks him. It was that kind of mentality. It's Pino upside down on the rappel, don't peek him. And what do people do? Well, a couple of people want to look at that because they want to see how it's being done. And Pino's going to win in that engagement. It's so difficult to challenge people on the upside down rappels, especially when you're trying to do it when you're prone. Like, that's just... Being prone is just a horrible animation to be in anyway. Like, you're restricted in every which way, and then you're just trying to look up. Like, I don't think it's even physically possible, let alone inside of a game. So, just so difficult to try and do. And it is going to secure a 3-3 split for NIP. They're probably going to be quite happy with that. Side switch. They now get the... I don't know if it's an advantage or not really here on Consulate today, but they get to go on the defense anyway. They're going to take us down to Garage straight away.
This is the site that I've had so many criticisms about the way that NIP defended and that NIP have struggled with. Although, what I immediately like about it is some of the roles have actually changed here. And what I'm really looking at is Pino on Jaeger. What we typically see is Pino playing mute, and he will be situated in the bathroom. What this does mean is that there is no smoke being brought. Instead, that's going to be Julio on Echo, which is an operator that he likes to play, but that's what you'll be relying on for your plant denial. But I want to see where Pino gets positioned, because presumably on the Jaeger, he's not going to be the one playing in bathroom. That's likely going to be Kamikaze. And that's a position that NIP have struggled with. Late reactions, not necessarily being able to hold off the attackers, late rotates down into the site when needed. It's just been a bit of a mess for NIP historically here in the first stage of the BR6. So at the very least, I like that they're doing something different.
Team 1 going to go for that full roam clear. Won't be playing inside a bathroom for NIP. It does beg a bit of a question. There are players out there on the roam, namely Muzi and Pino, as Pino's trying to redeem himself from earlier in that very same spot. This time it's going to be Alamau challenging onto the window, with KDS coming up long desk. Although arguably KDS not really going far enough up just yet. Maybe waiting for the drones to catch on up before progressing a little bit further. Julio able to gather a ton of intel there. He's going to lose his yokai for his troubles, but does have a second. He's going to be watching inside of blue. NIP really trying to keep control of this top floor, and they're doing so very well and removing a lot of the attacker utility as they go. Already down to only 5 drones.
You know, rotated back down to the bathroom with Psycho. The thing is here is neither of them are holding shotguns, so to actually open up the hatch and get back down, they'll have to rely on someone below them, likely Kamikaze, who we did see playing down there. Levy's seen the second yokai drone, and that will probably get shot out by Team 1. Moosey's going to be shooting out one of those drones in return as well. We're already in the final minute of the round with all 10 players still remaining, and NIP predominantly down towards the site at this point.
They've managed to make their way down, and they're going to be holding these power angles. Bottom of yellow stairs is seriously one that springs to mind, as KDS knows he can't just challenge down there fairly carelessly. Still going to be a player inside of bathroom as well. That player is going to be Psycho. He gets pinched out there as Neskin takes the swing with the SMG-11. Julio now trying to get his yokai drone into a position to either gather intel or stop a flank going down. But there's still hatches to be opened here by Team 1. They've been quite slow in their movements. Alamau going to get the circle desk hatch open. 15 seconds ticks on by. It looks as though he's framing up for a bit of a hatch drop here as KDS has pushed his way successfully down these yellow stairs and can now cover the plant that is coming from Lugonis. That plant is going to be stopped, however, as Kamikaze has to make a desperate swing. He has all the information he needs on the yokai drone as well. Levy finds one onto Julio, but it is impactless at this point.
NIP actually take a garage defense, and so much of that can be attributed to the fact that they wasted so much time. It was a very different kind of defense from what they've done on that site in the past. This time, much of their positioning focus was based on the very top floor, but they had hatches ready so that they could move down. For example, where Pino was in Cubby, he could just jump straight down the hatch from there into Piano when he wanted. That is how he and Wamai. Who's playing Wamai? Psycho?
I think Neskin.
Neskin isn't on defense.
Sorry, was I'm losing my mind.
Regardless, I think it was Psycho. So he and the Wamai could then actually move into the bathroom, take that. They did indeed get pinched on. I actually wondered if Team 1 were going to pull through at the end of that round purely by the way that the yellow stairs was being held, because Moosey couldn't move down the yellow stairs because of the player who was playing in the yellow door. I thought that that was going to provide enough cover for Lugonis to get the plant down. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case for Team 1, and NIP could aggress forward. But it wasn't the most standard garage defense, and NIP really utilized all of the space that they had available to them and took the round for it.
Round number 8. Heading on upstairs now to CEO. Console. NIP did a really good job there of holding on and played to the whistle, played that objective. How many times can they continue to do just exactly that? Because this one is fairly closely contested so far. Neither team have had too much of a significant lead that's lasted for long. There is still only one round in between these two teams. The change really from NIP in this round being that Kamikaze is bringing the Clash. Now, Clash, someone that we've seen a couple of times so far, and we've kind of questioned whether it's sort of desperate attempt from the defending side to try and gain a couple of rounds. But I think in this instance, Clash works quite nicely. We did see some significant early advantage previously when attacking this site by Team 1, in that their entry was very good. And Clash can just help to deal with that somewhat. Now, KDS has got himself in through admin. That's the side that the push is going to be coming from, but NIP look well prepared to deal with this.
Yeah, Psycho having that shield available there in long desk, although that's going to be removed. They still need to flush him out of the area, though, if they are to successfully land a Selma onto the meeting wall, which is what I assume is the plan. But right now, it's just KDS who's there. They know that the Clash is also ahead. Pino will be taken down by Levy, so that's your first kill, and that's vital intel utility that's been taken off the board.
It is. For Levy to be able to win that engagement out is quite impressive down there, because I think Pino had somebody maybe playing with him as well, and it's going to free everybody up on this top level to start applying more and more pressure, knowing that they're not getting pinged out by the pulse below. KDS going to pick up a kill over onto Psycho, and maybe a second, yes, as he takes down Kamikaze, but he will be traded. His efforts, although they were rewarded, would be short-lived. Muzi now looking to try and regain some sort of advantage. Very quickly, he is left in the 1 versus 3, effectively 1 versus 2 here, as he's got to make his way up this circle desk. Wins that engagement, which is going to be very important because now, with Neskin being down, it is 1 versus 1. However, Lagonis does have time and is likely going to try and revive his teammate, but Muzi has intel, going to try and shoot out through the floor. He can't go for an engagement because of how low health he is. He's going to try, though. He has to swing up these stairs and do something for his team. You can see the breadcrumb trail of Z-pings that are being left behind here as Neskin looks to try and confirm that plant. Has Muzi got the intel? Goes for the swing. Lagonis, he only needed to land 1 bullet, and he did it very well indeed. Nice clean gunfight to finish out the round, and Team 1 there level things back up at 4 rounds apiece.
I think Team 1 managed to take control of that middle part of the map a lot faster than NIP would have wanted. We saw the clash present over by TV near the top of the service stairs, the top of the visa stairs. At the same time as also having Julio in long desk as well. The reason why that's such an important part of the map is, as I mentioned, because you want to be getting a breach open on the reinforced part of the meeting wall. That's the part that is the 2 panels that are closest to admin. So over on that side of the map. Once you've gotten rid of those 2 players, then you have all that room that you need, and Team 1 managed to get it. We saw those Selmas go off, and it gave them that direct route and angle into the meeting site. Now, whether or not they want to continue pushing up and actually take forward into CEO, it doesn't really matter, because it's a matter of preference as to how you would like to then attack or approach the rest of the round. The important part is they got that really key space. And yes, we saw Muzi come up the spiral stairs much later on, but it was later than would have been needed to actually prevent that original control be taken from Team 1 anyway. So despite the fact that NIP actually specifically set up to hold on to that space for quite a long time, it wasn't enough to successfully hold that defense.
NIP now move to the split site. They look to try and regain that round advantage that they just lost, but there's not a lot in it between these 2 teams here tonight. Potential, of course, for an overtime if required to decide a winner here as well. Neskin going to be on the rappel. It looks as though he's got intel. His laser gates do take some burning, and that is going to be done there by Ash. As the drone gets tossed on in, that's going to be the intel received. But meanwhile, Levy, he's finding himself an opener onto Pino. How in the world has he gotten that kill, Gio? He is miles away.
I'm going to be honest with you, Pino has actually been caught on the bad end of a lot of opening, or at least early engagements in this game so far. Player who we look to really shine and show up for NIP. In fact, Pino is the only NIP player who is in the top 10 for rating, KD, and entry. None of the other players are, and yet he doesn't seem to be shining as brightly as he usually does in this game.
Really being dealt with quite quickly by Team 1 whenever they get the opportunity. He had a couple of good rounds on the attack getting that entry, but as you say, he's all in all had a fairly quiet game compared to his usual standard. Still hotly contesting this admin control, though, as Team 1 are looking to pressure on just about every window possible and slowly but surely forcing NIP to rotate on out. Someone that hasn't rotated out, though, is Muzi, and someone that's looking to rotate in is Psycho as he puts a ton of damage down over onto Alamau. Muzi's still going to be holding onto the window. Sees the player repel on in. How do you not react to that? KDS gets shut down. Neskin as well. And the battle for admin has been won, and it has been won by NIP for the time being.
One of those situations where Team 1 apparently just had to continue to commit to the push because of the amount of time that had already been eaten, even though they knew how many members of NIP were there and not giving up. Kamikaze, the last one to add on to the tally, and it looks like Psycho Well, I was gonna say gonna get a kill for himself again, but that's not quite true. Julio does, however, and that leaves just Lagonis on his own. He's in the site, though. Do NIP know where he is?
How is he being allowed to plant here? NIP surely just going to try and rush through at a moment's notice. A C4 going to blow out the wall. This would be a monster clutch if Lagonis is to get it. He needs to start hitting some shots, though, but no! NIP too quick. There was 3 of them, and they were all coming from a separate angle. Julio grabs the kill. Muzi, the disable on that diffuser. NIP grab back that round, taking us to 5 versus 4.
Well, I agree that it would have been really cool if Lagonis basically just waltzed into the site because he knew all of the kerfuffle that was going on upstairs and he could bypass it. You know, there were still way more members of NIP who were alive, and it's not going to take them forever to figure out where the plant is happening. And actually, when the plant did go down, those players from NIP were already downstairs in the basement. So it was kind of just a cornering Lagonis type deal. As I sort of insinuated earlier, it almost felt like a lot of Team One's push there was only committed to or persisted with because they figured that there wasn't enough time to do anything else. They wanted to go in for this admin push, but NIP weren't relinquishing that space at all. In fact, as you mentioned, Psycho rotated back in to join on with where Muzi was because they knew that they could act onto these windows. Team One were the ones pushing in there, and we already know that once you vault into admin, you still have to deal with all the desks around. There's still, it's almost like a maze, and you're still limited with the actual avenues that you can take within there. NIP just had to read into that, stay in safe places in the doorways, and Team One knew that the pressure of time was still on their backs as well. Not really the most fortuitous position for them, and not entirely conducive to taking a round, which is, I mean, exactly why we saw NIP take a round. Not the best one for Team One, but we haven't seen either of these two teams run away with a round at all, really. I mean, the closest was back in round 3, where Team One took the 3rd round right after taking the 2nd. Other than that, there haven't been any consecutive round wins, so you can't really argue that that's the end of Team One's game just yet.
Oh, far from it. There's a lot more for both of these sides to show us here. We're now into round number 10. Team One looking to try and clear out these roamers again. It's something that we have seen them struggle with. I think partly the setup last time with the oNe laser gates was a big factor in them being able to keep control for so long. This time oNe hasn't been brought. They've still got a ton of stuff to try and soak up this utility. A lot of ADSs, a lot of magnets, all seemingly focused around that yellow stair area. Almau there, biding his time, trying to just get some ankle or knee shots off there onto the player inside of the small cubby. That player's going to be Pino, and he's in fact going to rotate on down. Giving up that top floor control. The site being garage makes sense to sort of peel away at around the halfway mark, because there's still a lot of work here for Team One to do. They've not actually got anybody inside as of yet.
Top floor roam is what NIP actually played back in round number 7 when they defended this site for the first time, and it worked for them. Team One started to get the diffuser down, but it didn't finish. A nice kill from Pino onto Alamau, followed up from Muzi as well, but immediate trade puts it at a 4 versus 3. Make that a 4 versus 2, and it's just Lagonis and Neskin remaining.
This looks a bit more like the NIP we are used to seeing, winning out on those engagements and just dominating on the server. That's exactly what they have done here. Neskin, he's got nearly a minute, but he has also got 4 kills to find. The diffuser's cold. There's still a yokai drone alive. He's going to go for a bit of a walk, but a walk straight into Pino, as Pino is holding the angle from those yellow stairs. NIP put themselves onto a match point here, start to chain the rounds together. Have Team One got what it takes to bring this one back?
Well, you have to remember that whoever wins this game is qualifying immediately for the Copa Elite 6. NIP taking this next round means that they are in, and this is a team who has seen a significant amount of hardship in this stage of BR6 so far. Not the team that you would expect to have that. Their name descends or transcends through the history of Rainbow Six. People are scared of these players across oceans in this game. They nearly took the World Championship last year, and to have been put in a position where they have to fight for that last spot in the Copa Elite 6 already is an absolute abomination to what we know to be true here in Rainbow Six Siege. But NIP so far are showing that they have what it takes to prove that they belong in that competition, that they're still one of the best, and all they need is one more round to finally put that nail in the coffin.
It's a situation where you can't lay fault in the thought that, you know, NIP weren't necessarily the favourites coming in here today because of their performance throughout the course of this stage and going up against Team One, who we know that whilst they have had their ups and downs, they've had a kind of similar performance to NIP in many ways. So it really was anybody's game coming into this one. NIP just standing a little bit taller, I guess, against Team One so far, but they still have to convert this round. Question is, how are Team One going to respond? They've been pretty steady in their operator picks, regularly bringing 0 for these August cams, as Levy has hit 0 for the last couple of rounds in a row now. Wondering how it's going to impact here, because they're not choosing to bring, you know, there's a fear, something a little bit more typical as to what we would expect. There's also no flank watch or direct flank watch. Maybe that's the role that the August cameras are trying to fill a little bit here with the Nomad ban.
And that one Claymore.
Soul Claymore.
The Soul Claymore. Ooh, Alamound's going to punish Pino, going for a very opportunistic jump out that didn't pay off. Ouch. Unlucky.
I mean, said Claymore could have got that kill as well, but I'm not sure exactly where it has been placed. Losing Pino is a massive loss, and that's some aggression and arguably reckless aggression to show on a match point situation. To lose the pulse as well, it's so much of your utility and information moving into this last round.
Got the Yokai drone up there at the top of the yellow stairs, as well as that magnet now as well. And here the X-Kairos being detonated, I think, onto the bathroom wall?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, Julio's undeterred though. He's just waiting for someone to come up through the yellow stairs, expecting a push in through there. It doesn't look like anyone is thus far. There is someone on the window rappel, and yeah, you can see the X-Kairos breach be made from the bathroom wall. That'll give them a line of sight through into the site where that clash is. There's also another player in Cubby, that's Psycho, and he's using that bullet hole to hold onto the yellow stairs should anyone come in. There's coming in through the rappel, but he can't land the shots. Julio finally does, as Kamikaze's there to provide support.
Team One have spent a long time there to try and trade off that early advantage they got, and it's really not working out too well for them, as Muzi, he's able to take down Alamau. That now puts NIP in a commanding position here with 40 seconds left to play, and still Team One yet to find any significant progress onto the site. They've got a lot of information, and that's been demonstrated by these August cams that we've seen Levy flicking through. But an upside down rappel at this point isn't going to cut it. He's very likely to get run out on, or even still just out and out peaked, as Neskin is trying to make some sort of approach from long desk. Julio, he takes down Lagonis, Levy coming in from Spiral, but there is still the small factor of a clash to deal with. There's live ping information for both sides here as Levy takes down Julio, but the clock continues to tick, and that's going to lock things in for NIP. They do qualify for the Copa Elite 6. They leave it incredibly late, though.
All that matters is that they're there. NIP, this team who flooded doubts among the minds of many people, some of whom might have been fans. I have to admit that I am one of those people. I doubted NIP. They're proving us all wrong, and they move forward into the Copa Elite 6. Team One narrowly missing out on that opportunity, but by no means played poorly. They just